Welcome to Shadow Steam. You've made it here at just the right time, when the world outside is quiet, and every small sound feels a little too close. Tonight's theme is New Year's Eve, a night that's supposed to be full of countdowns, celebration, and new beginnings. But some people didn't live to see their next year begin. These are 3 true stories about what really happens when the noise fades, the lights dim, and midnight brings something darker than fireworks. Lonely places, wrong phone calls, and the kind of silence that never fully leaves you after you hear it. You've heard New Year's stories before, but not like these. These ones stay with you, and if you make it to the end, you might understand why some doors should never be opened at midnight. Most people who wander into this channel listen, get scared, and forget to subscribe. Don't be one of them. Tell me, what time is it where you are right now? Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Before the clock strikes 12, you might want to leave a light on. Let's begin. The call came again tonight. I knew it before I even looked at the phone. That low vibration on the nightstand. It's like my body recognizes it before my mind does. Every muscle tenses. My chest locks up. And for a second, I try to convince myself it's just a normal call, that maybe it's my mom or a friend, but I already know. It's always the same number. No name, no area code. Just unknown. The first time it happened, it was almost funny. It was last New Year's Eve, just before midnight. I was drunk, surrounded by friends, all of us shouting the countdown. When my phone lit up, I actually thought it was a prank. I answered and yelled, "Happy New Year!" But no one spoke. Just silence, thick and full, like the sound of someone holding their breath too close to the mic. I laughed it off then. Everyone did. It was nothing, but it's been a year now. A full year. And every single night at exactly 11:59 p.m., the call comes through. At first, I ignored it. Then I blocked it. Then I changed numbers. Didn't matter. It always found me again. Tonight, I decided I'd pick up. It's freezing in my apartment. My landlord still hasn't fixed the heater, and the cold makes the silence worse. You can hear the hum of the fridge, the creak of the pipes, and under all of that, something else. That low static buzz that comes from the phone even when it's not ringing. When the screen lit up just now, I was sitting on the edge of my bed, lights off, laptop closed, trying to stay awake. The call flashed once, twice, my throat went dry. Unknown is calling. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I answered. For 3 seconds, there was nothing but breathing. Not my breathing, theirs. Soft, slow, measured, like they didn't want to scare me. Then a whisper, "I missed you." I froze. The voice wasn't robotic or distorted. It sounded real, human, feminine maybe, or maybe not. There was a rasp to it, like someone had been crying for hours. "Who is this?" I said nothing, just that same shallow breath. Then the faintest noise in the background, like wind chimes or metal clinking together. "It's almost midnight," the voice said. "You should watch." Click, call ended. At first I thought it was another prank. Someone found my number online, or maybe it was a friend screwing around. But when I checked the call log, it didn't make sense. No number, no duration, no record of the call at all. Just like the others. I sat there for a long time just staring at the black mirror of my phone screen until I saw something that made my stomach drop. My front camera, just for a second, flashed. Like it took a picture. I threw the phone across the room. It clattered against the hardwood face down. The room felt smaller, tighter. The shadows stretched longer than they should have. I kept thinking I saw movement, reflections shifting in the TV screen, like someone walking behind me. I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch with all the lights on, scrolling through my call history, through settings, through every app that could possibly explain it. Nothing. Then, around 3:12 a.m., the screen lit up again. New voicemail. My heart dropped. I hadn't even heard the phone ring. When I pressed play, I had to hold my breath to hear it. It started with static, like someone had recorded off an old radio. Then came a faint ticking sound like a clock, and under that a voice whispering, "Look in the mirror." I looked up before I could stop myself. The mirror across from the couch reflected me sitting there, eyes wide, mouth half open, frozen like an animal waiting for something to move. And then it did. The reflection blinked, but I didn't move for a long time, just stared. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the phone. I kept telling myself I was overtired, that it was just a trick of the light, but deep down I knew it wasn't. The reflection smiled. Not a big grin, just a small, knowing curve of the lips. Then it raised its hand, slow and deliberate, and placed it against the glass. I could see the faint outline of the fingerprint smudges from the inside. I was still sitting, hands in my lap. I whispered, "Stop." The reflection's head tilted slightly, like it was listening. Then with the same hand, it reached toward its face and dragged its fingers down the side of its cheek. Slow, scratching, leaving a faint red line behind. And then, like it was answering me, it whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but I saw the shape of its mouth. Soon. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up to daylight streaming through the blinds. My phone was on the floor next to me, battery dead. The mirror looked normal again. I spent the whole morning convincing myself I'd imagined it. Lack of sleep. Too much caffeine. Maybe I was getting sick. Then I checked my photos. Buried between screenshots and random selfies was one I didn't take. Time-stamped 11:59 p.m. The photo was blurry, but you could make out the shape of me sitting on the bed, eyes half shut, hair in my face, and behind me in the dark reflection of the window, a pale shape, standing, watching. I deleted it immediately, but that doesn't change the fact that it was there. All day I kept getting these flashes like memories that weren't mine. A woman's voice humming an old song, the faint echo of a ticking clock. I thought I could smell perfume too, something floral and stale like the inside of a dead bouquet. By nightfall I started hearing it again. That faint static from the phone, even though it was powered off. It's like it hums under everything now. Under the TV, the fridge, even the pipes. I told myself I wouldn't answer tonight, no matter what. But as the minutes crawled closer to midnight, I felt this pressure building in my chest, like the call was already happening even before the phone rang. Like she was waiting, the 58, I turned on every light. Sat on the couch. Phone in my hand, alt 59, the screen lit up. Unknown is calling. I didn't answer. But the second it hit midnight, the ringtone cut out on its own. The line picked up and I heard it again, my own voice breathing, whispering, "I told you to watch." That was the first night I felt her here. Not just on the phone. In the apartment, the air felt heavier, like someone else was breathing it with me. I turned slowly toward the hallway, and that's when I saw it. Faint light coming from under the bathroom door. I hadn't turned that light on. I could hear the faint clink of metal again, like something tapping the sink. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely grab the doorknob. I pushed the door open, slow, quiet. The mirror was fogged, though the air wasn't warm. Someone had drawn on it with their finger. One word, "I," right beneath it, in shaky, dripping streaks of condensation. Another line appeared, like it was being written as I watched. "Answer me." I stumbled back. Heart pounding, phone clutched tight in my hand. I didn't even notice at first that it had started vibrating again. The call, "Unknown is calling," and I don't know why I did it, why I didn't run, why I didn't throw the damn thing out the window, but I answered. "Who are you?" I said, my voice shaking. There was a pause. Then, "You know me." The voice cracked on the last word. I could hear something like crying, but it didn't sound sad. It sounded angry. "You stopped answering," it whispered. "You forgot what you promised." I started, but then came a sound that made me freeze. Knocking, not from the phone. From the bathroom door, once, twice, 3 times. I turned toward it, every nerve in my body screaming. The knocking stopped. Then, slowly from the other side of the door, a voice whispered back, "Let me in." That's where I lost it. I dropped the phone and ran out of the apartment barefoot. I didn't even take my keys. I just bolted down the hallway, heart slamming, until I hit the stairwell. When I looked back up, I swear I saw the bathroom light flicker off by itself. I spent the night in my car, parked outside a gas station. Didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Just watched the sun come up and tried to pretend it was all in my head. But when I finally went back home this morning, the bathroom door was wide open, and on the mirror, written this time in something dark and crusted, were 3 words, "Talk to me." I haven't slept in 2 days. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it again. That faint click, the static hum, the whisper of my own voice breathing through the line. I unplugged the phone, shut it in a drawer, even turned off the power to the whole apartment. Didn't matter. Last night the call came through my laptop, no ringtone, no notification, just a quiet ping, and the screen flickered to life, glowing in the dark. I hadn't touched it. The webcam light came on by itself, and then, in the middle of the screen, a video started to play. A grainy handheld recording. It was my apartment. The same couch. Same crooked picture frame on the wall, except in the video the camera was moving through the room, slow and shaky, like whoever was holding it was walking. The footsteps were heavy, muffled. The view tilted toward the hallway and toward my bedroom. Then the camera stopped. The frame froze on my closed door. I remember whispering to myself, "This isn't live, this isn't live," and then, from behind that same door, I heard the knob turn. I don't remember how I got out of the apartment. My brain just sort of blanked out. The next thing I knew, I was outside, barefoot again, standing in the freezing air with my keys clutched in my hand. I could see my breath, but I couldn't feel it. I stayed at my friend Rena's place that night. Didn't tell her everything, just said I was dealing with some stalker, that I was scared to be alone. She offered to let me crash on her couch. For a few hours, it almost felt safe. She lives in one of those new high-rises with security cameras and a 24-hour doorman. No way anyone could just walk in. But right before midnight, while she was asleep in her room, my phone, the one I'd left in airplane mode, buzzed once. Just one short vibration. The screen lit up on its own, and instead of a call, there was a new text. Unknown. I like your friend's place. Cozy. I froze. I hadn't shared her address with anyone. The text came with a picture. My stomach turned when I opened it. It was a photo of Rena's living room taken from behind the couch. My head was visible at the edge of the frame, half turned, like I was about to look back. But what made me want to scream was what I saw behind me in the reflection of the TV screen. A figure standing just behind the couch. Tall. Too tall. Blurred but unmistakably human. I didn't wake Rena. I couldn't even move for a few minutes. My body just locked up completely. When I finally did stand, the air felt colder than it had before. It smelled faintly of metal and something sweet like rotting flowers. I checked every door, every window, nothing, everything was locked. But when I walked past the full-length mirror near her hallway, I noticed something off. The reflection was lagging. I'd move, blink, tilt my head, and for half a second, my reflection stayed still. Then it caught up, smooth and fluid like nothing had happened. I forced myself not to look again. Around 2 a.m, Rena woke up to get water. She found me sitting on the floor back against the wall, phone in my hand like I was waiting for something. She told me I looked pale, gray, almost. I tried to tell her about the text, the photo, the reflection, but the more I spoke, the more it sounded impossible. Like I was unraveling. She took my phone from me saying, "You need to sleep. I'll call the cops in the morning." I didn't argue. I couldn't. When I woke up a few hours later, the sun was just starting to rise. Rena was still asleep. The air in the apartment felt wrong again, like pressure before a storm. My throat was dry. The TV was on, static hissing quietly, though neither of us had touched the remote. Then I saw it. My phone. Back on the coffee table. Screen cracked, and written across the glass in a smear of something dark. Maybe makeup. Maybe not, were the words, "You shouldn't have left." I left Rena's that morning without telling her. I didn't know where else to go. My parents lived too far away, and I couldn't show up at anyone's door looking like this. Jittery, sleep-deprived, reeking of fear. So I went back to my apartment. Everything was exactly how I'd left it. Lights off. Bathroom door still open, but there was something new. A faint smell of perfume again, stronger this time. And my mirror. The talk to me writing was gone, completely wiped clean. But the glass itself seemed warped, like the surface was breathing, just barely rippling like water. I stood in front of it for a long time. My reflection stared back, same eyes, same face, but there was a small detail I didn't notice right away. A faint mark under my left eye. A scratch, thin, red, vertical. When I reached up to touch my face, it wasn't there, only in the reflection, and as I watched, the mark deepened. Blood welled up in the mirror version of me, slow and dark. The reflection smiled again. That night, I did something I shouldn't have. I tried calling back. I opened the call log. Still empty, no record of any unknown number. But something in me needed to fight back, to do something even if it was stupid. So I opened the keypad and pressed *67 to hide my caller ID, then dialed my own number. It rang once, then to my horror, I heard the ringtone, not from the phone, but from the mirror. The sound came from inside the glass. I dropped the phone. The ringing grew louder, echoing through the apartment like a vibration in my bones. The reflection tilted its head, still smiling, still bleeding. Then it spoke, perfectly synchronized with the ringtone. "You shouldn't call yourself." The phone went dead. That was 2 nights ago. Since then, I've been seeing things in every reflective surface, like not just mirrors. The black screen of my TV, the window at night, even puddles on the street. Sometimes I catch movement that doesn't belong to me. A flick of hair, a blink delayed, a shadow that lingers longer than it should. I started covering the mirrors with towels, blankets, anything. Doesn't matter. I still hear it. The static, the faint ticking, the whisper I can't eat. I can barely think. My phone dies constantly, but when I plug it in, it boots up to the same wallpaper. A photo of me sleeping. One I never took. Last night was the worst. It started with a knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks. I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. Another 3 knocks, slower this time. Then a voice. "It's me." I froze. It sounded like Rena. I went to the peephole. The hallway was empty. The voice came again, closer to the door now. "Please open up. I need to talk to you." My brain was screaming, but it wasn't her. The tone was off. The rhythm of her words wrong. I whispered, "Go away." The voice paused. Then, in a perfect imitation of my own voice, it whispered back, "You can't ignore me forever." I backed away slowly. The knocking stopped. For a second, I thought maybe it was over. Then I heard it, the sound of my phone buzzing on the counter. "Unknown is calling." I stared at it. The screen flickered. Then, without touching it, the phone answered itself. The front camera activated. I saw my own terrified face staring back. But the eyes weren't mine. They were darker, almost black, like the pupils had spread to fill the whole iris. The voice from the speaker whispered, "I told you I missed you." Something inside me snapped. I screamed, a real animal sound, and threw the phone against the wall. It shattered, battery popping out, pieces scattering across the floor. The apartment went silent again. For a few seconds, all I could hear was my own breathing. Then a faint creak from behind me, the sound of a door opening. The bathroom. Light leaked through the crack, pale and flickering. I turned slowly. The mirror was uncovered. I don't remember uncovering it, and written across it, this time in jagged letters that looked carved rather than drawn, were the words, "Come home." I couldn't look away. My reflection was standing differently now. Shoulders relaxed, smile soft, almost inviting. The cut under its eye was gone. I whispered, "What do you want from me?" The reflection blinked, then whispered back, perfectly timed with my breath, "You promised to stay." The light in the bathroom flickered. The walls seemed to bend. I felt dizzy, like gravity was shifting. I took a step back, but the reflection took a step forward. And then, impossibly, it breathed out. The glass fogged from the inside. I ran. I don't even remember leaving the building. My next clear memory is sitting in my car, shaking, crying, watching the empty windows of my apartment. Every light in my unit flickered at once in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. I drove until sunrise. I don't know where I was going. I just needed distance. I ended up at a cheap roadside motel about an hour away. Old place, neon sign buzzing. Smell of cigarettes soaked into the walls. I paid in cash. The guy at the front desk barely looked at me. There's no mirror in this room, thank God. The only reflective surface is the TV, and I keep it unplugged. I tried to sleep. Didn't happen. The room felt wrong, like the air itself was listening. I turned on the bathroom fan to drown it out, but underneath the hum, I could still hear the faint tick, 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 like a clock counting down. At exactly 11:59 p.m., my backup phone, the one I hadn't used in months, the one with a completely different number, started ringing. I didn't answer, but it didn't stop. The ringing went on for almost a full minute, then stopped abruptly. A new message appeared, unknown. You can't hide from a reflection. Then another photo followed. This time it wasn't my apartment. It was this motel room. The picture showed me sitting on the edge of the bed. Same clothes, same lighting, except it wasn't me. The eyes were wrong again. Too dark, too still. Behind the figure in the photo, the bathroom door was open, and in the mirror above the sink, something stood that wasn't reflected in the rest of the picture. A woman. It's December 31st again. New Year's Eve. Exactly 1 year since the first call. I didn't plan for it to line up this way. I swear I didn't. But part of me knew it would. No matter how far I ran, how many numbers I changed, it was always leading here. Back to this night. The clock on the motel nightstand reads 11:41 p.m. 19 minutes. That's how long I have until she calls again. I keep telling myself I won't answer. That I'll throw the phone out or smash it or just walk away and let it ring into the void. But I already know I won't. I can't, because I need to know what she wants. The air in the room feels heavy tonight, like breathing through damp cloth. My chest aches every time I inhale. I haven't eaten in days. Haven't left this room except to refill the ice bucket. The motel clerk doesn't ask questions anymore. He just slides the key across the counter and avoids eye contact. The mirror in the bathroom is gone. I smashed it last night. There's still glass dust on the floor, sparkling under the flickering light. I covered the TV screen with a towel, but sometimes I still see movement underneath, faint and shivering, like something trying to breathe through the fabric. The phone sits on the nightstand, face down, battery at 100%. It shouldn't be, I haven't charged it. Outside, fireworks crack early, distant and hollow. Each burst makes me flinch. 48 p.m. I try to keep my hands busy, scrolling through old photos, old texts, pretending to be someone normal again. But every image on my phone looks wrong. Every photo of me has changed slightly. The eyes are darker, the mouth turned down, and in the corner of each picture, just barely visible, is the same blur, the same shape. Her. I scroll faster like I can outrun it, but no matter where I stop, she's always there. Closer each time. 53 p.m. Something's happening to the room. The sound of the fan has slowed, dragging out each rotation like it's moving through syrup. The air hums, low, vibrating. I can feel it in my teeth. The smell of perfume again, stronger now, mixed with the faint metallic tang I've come to recognize as her presence. I press my palms to my ears, trying to block it out, but then the static starts. Not from the phone, from everywhere. It seeps through the air vents, the walls, even the floor. That same faint hiss that used to come through the receiver. And underneath it, a rhythm, slow, steady, like breathing. My breathing, 11:57 p.m. The phone screen lights up. Unknown is calling. No ringtone this time. Just the glow, soft and sickly blue, casting light across the bedspread. I stare at it, heart hammering. It doesn't ring again. Doesn't go to voicemail. Just waits, 11:58. The static grows louder. The walls seem to pulse with it. I can hear the faint echo of her voice now, layered and distant, whispering things I can't quite make out. Maybe my name, maybe not. I pick up the phone. My thumb hovers over the green icon. I whisper, "What do you want from me?" And for the first time I hear her clearly, not through the speaker but from right behind me, to finish the countdown. I turn around slowly. The room has changed. The walls stretch farther, darker. The single lamp in the corner flickers like a dying star. The towel covering the TV slips off by itself, and for a second, I see us both reflected in the dark screen. Me sitting on the bed, and her standing behind, head tilted, eyes empty. She looks exactly like me, every detail. Every scar. Every tremor in my hands, except she's smiling. "You left me there," she whispers. My throat goes dry. "Where?" She steps closer. The sound of her bare feet on the carpet is wrong. Too soft, too slow. "In between," she says. "When you hung up, you were supposed to stay." The phone in my hand vibrates once, hard enough to make me drop it. When it hits the floor, the speaker clicks on by itself, and through it, my voice, and begins to count. 10. The woman in my reflection, the smile's wider. 9. The lights dim with each number. 8. Her breath fogs the air, though the room is cold. 7. The static rises to a shriek crawling under my skin. 6. She reaches toward me. Her hand looks solid, too solid. 5. I stumble back, trip over the edge of the bed. The room spins. 4. Her fingers brush my arm. freezing like ice against bone. 3. Every instinct screams at me to run, but my body won't move. 2. She leans in close, her lips by my ear. 1. And then everything stops. Silence. The air feels thinner, stretched too tight. I can't hear the fireworks anymore. The room is bathed in blue light from the phone, which lies on the floor with the screen cracked. A new message flashes. Welcome back. I pick it up, hands shaking. The wallpaper has changed again. It's a photo of the motel room. Same angle as before, except now there's no me in it, just her. Standing in the center, smiling. Behind her, the mirror over the sink is whole again. And in the reflection, I swear I see myself trapped inside. I drop the phone. It clatters to the floor face down. The reflection in the black TV screen shifts on its own, even though I'm not moving. It steps closer, placing its hand against the inside of the screen. The surface ripples. I back away. My heels hit the wall, then I feel it, under pressure on my shoulder. Cold fingers curling lightly, almost tenderly. You picked up, she whispers. Now stay. The TV flares white. I don't know how long it's been since then, hours, maybe days. It's quiet now. Too quiet. The static's gone, the air still, the smell faded. The motel clock reads 12:03 a.m., but the fireworks never came back. The phone lies on the nightstand, screen dark. I can see my face reflected in it faintly, eyes hollow, expression blank. But when I tilt my head, the reflection doesn't follow. It just smiles. I tried leaving earlier. Packed a bag, grabbed my keys. But when I opened the door, it wasn't the motel hallway outside. It was my apartment. Same walls, same couch, same bathroom door slightly ajar. I dropped everything and slammed the door shut, heart pounding. But now I can hear it. The faint knocking from the other side. Once, twice, 3 times, followed by my voice whispering, "Let me in." I don't think there's anywhere left to go. Every surface now shows her face. The TV, the window, even the metal of the faucet handle, all of them smiling the same smile. Sometimes when I blink, I lose track of which side I'm on. I'll open my eyes and see myself standing in the mirror, perfectly still, while my real body doesn't feel real at all. It's like the longer I resist, the thinner the line gets. Between here and there, between me and her. It's 11:59 p.m. again. The phone lights up one more time. Unknown is calling. I know what happens if I answer. I also know what happens if I don't. The walls hum faintly like they're waiting. I reach for the phone, fingers trembling. My reflection moves faster, eager, pressing her hand to the inside of the black screen. The air feels thick, vibrating with that low, familiar static. And this time when I answer, I don't say a word, neither does she. We just breathe. Together. The line crackles softly, then goes still. The sound of the clock ticking in the corner fades away, and in that final second before midnight, I finally understand there was never a caller, there was just me laying on the wrong side of the glass. The snow had been falling since morning, soft at first, then harder as night settled over the trees. By the time we reached the cabin, it was buried to the porch rails. I remember the silence most, that muffled, heavy quiet that comes when the world is wrapped in snow. It should have been peaceful. It wasn't. Something about that silence felt like holding your breath too long. There were 5 of us, me, my boyfriend Ryan, our friends Sam and Bree's cousin Tyler. We'd rented the cabin for New Year's weekend, the kind of get-off-the-grid trip people post about on social media and regret an hour later. No Wi-Fi, no cell signal, no neighbors for miles. The listing said rustic charm. It was more like abandoned charm. The moment I stepped inside, I smelled dust, wood smoke, and something faintly metallic, like old coins or rusted nails. The floorboards groaned with each step. Still, everyone acted excited. Music playing from a portable speaker. Ryan laughing. Bree popping a bottle of cheap champagne. For a while, I almost convinced myself I was imagining the strange feeling pressing behind my ribs. But then Tyler found the box. It was in the corner of the living room, half hidden behind a wood pile, a cardboard box sealed with yellowed tape. Across the top, someone had written in red marker, "Happy New Year." Tyler grinned, brushing snow off his jacket. "Guess we're not the first ones to celebrate here." Bree frowned. "We should probably leave it alone." but he was already opening it. Inside were decorations, paper streamers, a bag of confetti, a few party hats, a stack of plastic cups. It would have been funny if not for the way the confetti looked. It wasn't bright. It was dark, red mostly, some pieces torn, some stuck together like they'd gotten wet once and dried that way. Ryan laughed, trying to cut the tension. Maybe the last guests had a wild party. Yeah, Tyler said. Looks like it ended in a massacre of glitter. We all laughed, kind of. But the sound didn't fill the room right. It echoed strangely, flat and hollow. Later, while the others unpacked, I wandered down the hall to find my room. The power was spotty, lights flickering when the wind hit the cabin. My footsteps sounded too loud. The rooms all looked the same. Plain wooden walls, faded rugs, and mirrors hung at odd angles. In the last one on the right, I stopped short. Someone had already been there. On the dresser sat an empty glass, faint lipstick print on the rim. Next to it, a silver party horn bent like it had been crushed in someone's hand. And above the bed on the wall was a faint stain. Round, faded, the color of rust. I told myself it was nothing. Just old wood, water damage maybe. Still, I couldn't bring myself to sleep in that room. By 9, we'd made dinner, pasta and cheap wine. The wind outside howled like something alive, rattling the shutters. Every time the fire popped, I jumped a little. Bree teased me about it. "City girl can't handle nature," she said. I smiled, but inside I kept thinking about that box, about the way the confetti had clumped together, and how the bag hadn't been dusty like the rest of the room, like someone had put it there recently. Around 11, Ryan suggested we decorate. "Let's actually use the stuff," he said. "Make it feel like a real party." Bree and Sam were into it, laughing as they taped streamers to the beams. I helped hang a banner that said, "New Year, New Beginnings." The letters faded almost pink, like they'd once been red. Tyler found a handful of those red confetti bits at the bottom of the box and tossed them into the air. They fluttered slowly, catching the light from the fireplace. One piece landed on my arm. It stuck there for a second, damp, before sliding down onto the floor. When I bent to pick it up, I noticed it wasn't paper. Not really. The texture was wrong, soft, almost fibrous, like thin fabric that had been soaked and dried. I dropped it without thinking. At midnight, we gathered around the old clock in the corner, a tall grandfather thing that looked older than the cabin itself. The pendulum swung unevenly, ticking out a rhythm that didn't quite match the seconds. Ryan poured champagne into mismatched glasses. 10 seconds, he shouted. We all started counting down. 10. 9, the wind screamed outside, sharp enough to shake the window panes. 8. 7. The lights flickered once, twice. 6. And then the clock stopped. The pendulum froze mid-swing. We all fell silent. The only sound was the fire crackling low. Tyler laughed nervously. "Guess time's up early." Then somewhere behind us we heard it, a faint pop. Like a balloon bursting, Bree turned first. Did someone bring party poppers? No one had. The sound came again, closer this time. Sharper. Pop. 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 And with each one, something small fluttered down from the ceiling. Little flecks of that same dark confetti. Ryan grabbed his phone, turning on the flashlight. He aimed it upward. The ceiling beams were covered in dust and cobwebs, and what looked like old streamers hanging limp, except some of them were damp, glistening faintly. A cold draft swept through the room, making the decorations sway. The banner behind us tore in the middle, the word "beginnings" folding in on itself until all that was left hanging was "New Year." Then the fire went out. In the dark, I could still hear the faint ticking of the clock, though I could see the pendulum hadn't moved. We all just stood there for a moment, no one speaking. Then Sam muttered, "The power's weird out here, right?" No one answered. The smell hit next, faint at first, then stronger. "Like iron and damp earth," Tyler whispered. "Do you smell that?" Before anyone could respond, the sound of laughter echoed faintly down the hall. A single soft laugh, light, almost happy. We froze. Bree whispered, "Was that?" Outside, it wasn't. It came again, clearer this time, from the direction of the bedrooms. A woman's voice, low and playful, like someone remembering a joke. "Happy New Year." Ryan grabbed the flashlight again, his hand shaking slightly. "It's probably the radio or something," he said, though there wasn't one. He started down the hallway anyway. The light danced over the wood walls, over old picture frames full of faces we didn't recognize. "Hello?" he called. The laughter stopped. I followed him, every part of me screaming to turn around. The others trailed close behind, whispering, feet creaking on the warped floorboards. When we reached the end of the hall, the door to the last room, the one I hadn't wanted to sleep in, was open. The air coming from inside was colder than the rest of the house. I could see my breath. Ryan stepped closer, light trembling in his hand. The beam landed on the mirror above the dresser, the one with the faint stain on the wall behind it. Except now, the stain wasn't faint. It was fresh, dark. The word "high" was written across the glass in something thick that caught the light like paint. Ryan whispered, "What the hell?" Then from behind the mirror, something tapped once, twice, 3 times soft, measured like knuckles against glass. That's when the clock in the living room started again, loud this time, each tick echoing down the hallway like a heartbeat. Then the pendulum began to swing backward. None of us spoke. I think we all wanted to run, but our bodies wouldn't move. Then the faint pop came again, from right above the doorway. A single piece of red confetti drifted down, landing on the floor between us. It wasn't paper. It looked wet. I don't remember what happened after that. Just flashes, Bree crying, Ryan dragging us toward the front door, snow whipping in through the cracks as he pulled it open. The air outside was blinding white, but something about the shadows under the trees looked wrong. Too still, too shaped. When we finally slammed the door shut again, the sound of the wind faded instantly, like it had never been there. And in the sudden silence, the grandfather clock chimed once, then again. 12 slow chimes for midnight. And after the last one, in the faint glow from the dying flashlight, I saw it, on the floor near the hearth, half buried in the spilled confetti, was a single party hat, old, faded and torn, with a name written on it in careful cursive, mine. When I opened my eyes, the cabin was gray with early light. The fire had burned out sometime in the night, leaving the room heavy with cold. My breath hung in the air like smoke. For a second I couldn't tell if it had all really happened. The laughter, the mirror, the confetti. It felt like something my brain had stitched together out of half-dreams. But then I saw the party hat still lying on the floor beside my sleeping bag. The name on it was smudged but readable. That was enough. Ryan was already up, pacing by the window. He looked exhausted. "The road's gone," he said when he saw me looking. "The snow must have piled up overnight. We're not getting the car out." Bree was curled on the couch under a blanket. Tyler sat near the door with his headphones in but no music playing, just the cord twisted around his fingers. Sam was at the table scribbling in his phone notebook even though there was no signal. No one said much. It felt like we were all waiting for someone else to start the day, to make the cabin feel normal again. I tried to laugh it off. "We got spooked, that's all. Weird noises, bad weather." Ryan nodded but didn't look convinced. Maybe. By afternoon we were all pretending everything was fine. Tyler shoveled snow off the porch, Sam chopped wood. Bree made cocoa in the dusty kettle we'd found under the sink. The smell of it, sweet and warm, almost helped. I walked down the hall toward the bedrooms again, wanting to prove to myself that the mirror was just a mirror. But the door to that room was closed now, and someone had draped a towel over the knob. I didn't ask who. Around 3, the sky darkened again. Heavy clouds, no stars, no horizon, just white and gray pressing in on the windows. The generator sputtered once, twice, then died. The heater's hum faded out. The silence that followed was different from the night before. It wasn't heavy. It was listening. Bree whispered, "Can we light the fire again?" And I was grateful just to hear another voice. Ryan was stacking logs when he froze. "You hear that?" At first I didn't. Then a faint sound floated through the walls. Soft music like a waltz, muffled and distant. It came in short bursts as if carried by wind. Tyler frowned. "Maybe another cabin?" "There aren't any others," I said. I checked the map. The nearest road was almost 2 miles down the mountain. The music faded, leaving a faint echo that felt like it had sunk into the wood around us. We huddled by the fire once it caught again. The warmth should have helped, but I kept glancing toward the hall. That door with the towel felt like an open eye. At 6, Ryan announced we'd play cards. "No point staring into the dark," he said. "Let's just pretend it's a normal night." So we did. We sat on the rug with the deck spread between us. the flames casting flickering shadows over our faces. Bree dealt the first hand, and for a little while there was laughter again. Then a single piece of red confetti floated down between us, spinning slowly until it landed on the table. No one moved. The air around the fireplace seemed to breathe, pulling cold into the room. Where did that? Bree began, but another piece drifted down. And another. I looked up. The beams above us were dark with smoke, no sign of anything. Still, the pieces kept falling, soft and steady like snow through a broken ceiling. Sam stood, brushing one off his sleeve. "It's coming from the vent," he said, trying to sound logical. "Old insulation or something." Ryan grabbed a chair and climbed up, pushing the vent cover aside. Nothing came out, just a faint draft of air that smelled like damp wood and something older underneath. Then we heard the laugh again, not from the hallway this time. From inside the vent, Ryan nearly dropped the chair. "It's an echo," he said quickly. "Sound travels in these old places." But his voice trembled. We decided to sleep in the same room that night, 4 of us on the floor, Ryan near the door with the flashlight in his hand. Bree tried to keep talking, but her sentences fell apart mid-word, fading into silence. At some point, I dozed off. I don't know how long I slept, but when I woke, the flashlight was out. The fire, nothing but red coals. It took me a moment to realize why I'd woken. Someone was humming, softly, right outside the door. It wasn't any tune I recognized, just a few slow notes, repeating again and again, then a pause. Then the faint sound of something brushing against the wood like fingertips tracing the grain. I held my breath, waiting for Ryan to move, to wake up. He didn't. The doorknob twitched, just once, enough to make it click. The humming stopped, then very quietly from the other side of the door. "You forgot to say goodbye." I sat there frozen, afraid even to blink. My eyes burned from staring at the dark too long. Minutes passed, or hours. When I finally found the courage to whisper Ryan's name, the door was still. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. But when morning came and we dared open it, there were faint fingerprints on the paint. Too small to belong to any of us. We packed before breakfast. No one said it out loud, but we all knew we needed to leave. Tyler started the car while Ryan cleared snow from the windshield. The engine coughed once, then died. He tried again, nothing. We checked the fuel tank, it was full. The key turned, the dash lights flickered, but the car stayed silent. That's when I saw it. On the hood, a dusting of red confetti, perfectly arranged in a circle as if someone had sprinkled it by hand. The flakes didn't blow away, even though the wind whipped around us. They stuck to the metal like they belonged there. Bree whispered, "What does it mean?" None of us answered. We went back inside because the cold was cutting through our coats. The fire had gone out again, even though it should have burned for hours. The cabin smelled faintly sweet now, like champagne left open too. Long, on the table sat 5 plastic cups. Hadn't left them there. Each one had a name written in marker along the rim. Ryan, Bree, Sam, Tyler, and mine. They were filled halfway with water, or what I thought was water until I touched one and realized it was sticky. The smell hit me then. Sugar, and something sour underneath like fruit gone bad. Tyler backed away. "It's a prank," he said. "Someone's messing with us." Ryan shook his head. "No one knows we're here." I turned toward the window. For a heartbeat, I could have sworn I saw someone standing just beyond the tree line. A flash of pale among the dark trunks. A shimmer like a silver party dress. When I blinked, the space was empty. We tried the radio in the kitchen. Static only, except for one channel that kept cutting in and out. Between the bursts of noise, we heard a voice, distorted but cheerful, and now the countdown continues. 3, 2, 1. The signal snapped off. We stood there in silence until Sam reached over and turned the dial back to 0. "Let's just stay by the fire," he said. "It's safer there." Night came early again. The sky pressed low, the snow outside glowing faintly with its own light. We sat close together, watching the shadows shift across the walls. Bree was the first to notice. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. It was faint, almost too soft to catch, a slow scraping from beneath the floorboards, like someone dragging something heavy across the basement. "There's no basement," Ryan said, but we all heard it. The steady rhythm, pause, drag, pause again. It stopped directly below us. Then came the faint pop. Red dust rose from between the boards. settling in little curls of confetti. The scraping started again, moving toward the hallway. None of us wanted to follow it, but the sound drew us like a thread. The flashlight beam jumped across the walls, catching the old photographs again. One had fallen, its glass cracked. The photo showed 5 people in the same room decades ago, standing beneath that same banner. New year, new beginnings. Their faces were smiling, but someone had drawn X's over each one in marker, except the figure on the far right, a woman in a party dress, her smile wider than the rest. She hadn't been crossed out. I set the photo down carefully. My hands were shaking. In the kitchen, the sound had stopped. The air felt thicker, colder. The cups with our names were gone from the table. Ryan's flashlight flickered once, then died. For a second, everything went black. Then a faint glow filled the room, the same dull red as dying coals. It was coming from the confetti scattered across the floor. Each tiny piece shimmered like a burning ember, pulsing slowly. Bree gasped. "What is happening?" Ryan grabbed my hand. "We're leaving now." But when he turned toward the door, the handle moved before he touched it. Just a small twist, deliberate, like whoever was outside had been waiting. The door swung open on its own. The wind that rushed in carried with it the faint scent of perfume and something else, smoke maybe. And beneath that, a single voice, clear and close, "Happy New Year." The sound cut through me. It wasn't angry or ghostly. It was soft, like someone standing behind you at a party whispering over the music. I turned before I could stop myself. The entryway was empty. The snow beyond the porch looked untouched. Ryan shut the door hard. The latch clicked into place. For a long moment, none of us moved. Then Tyler said what we were all thinking. "We're not alone here. We didn't sleep that night." We sat in a circle around the cold hearth, watching the walls as if they might move. The clock ticked unevenly again, sometimes skipping seconds, sometimes doubling back. At midnight, it didn't chime, it laughed. A low, metallic sound that rattled the glass in the windows. I closed my eyes and tried to remember the city noise I'd once hated. The sirens, the traffic, the voices through thin walls. Anything but this silence that felt alive. Morning came in colorless light. The cabin looked the same, yet it felt rearranged, like a set after the actors have left, but the air still remembers their lines. Ryan was at the window staring at the trees. "Tracks," he said. Someone was walking around out there. I joined him. In the snow were faint depressions leading away from the porch and looping back toward the side of the cabin. But there was only one set. The steps went out and came back bigger, deeper, as if whoever or whatever it was had returned carrying something heavy. Bree stood near the cold fireplace, twisting a piece of streamer between her fingers. "We can't just wait here." No one argued. We decided to look for a road sign or trail marker. Ryan took the car keys anyway, even though the car was useless, just in case. Tyler carried the flashlight, Sam a map from the glove box. I stuffed my phone in my pocket even though it was dead. Some part of me hoped it would light up again. The trees were silent except for the sound of snow crunching under our boots. It wasn't until we reached the curve in the road that we saw the first one, a plastic cup half buried in snow, turned upside down like someone had dropped it mid-toast. A faint ring of red dust surrounded it. Bree whispered, "Don't touch it." Tyler did anyway. He lifted it and frowned. Inside, written backward along the rim, was a single word: "Stay." He dropped it fast like it burned. The air grew heavier as we moved deeper into the woods. The silence pressed closer, muting our steps. Every few minutes I thought I heard music again, a faint rhythm like a waltz winding through the trees. When I stopped to listen, it vanished. After what felt like an hour, we came upon another clearing. In the center stood something that made my stomach knot, a wooden sign half collapsed under snow painted with the words, "Briarwood Cabins, Ring in the New Year." The same slogan from the banner inside our cabin. The boards behind it were burned black, edges charred. I brushed away snow and found a date faintly carved beneath the paint. 1982. Ryan read it aloud. "That's over 40 years ago." Bree swallowed hard. "But the listing said the place was renovated 5 years ago." Sam shook his head. "No, the photos on the website, maybe they were old, maybe. No one's owned this place for decades." The wind moved through the trees, carrying with it the faint scent of something sweet and rotten, like overripe fruit. We hurried back, half running through the snow. When the cabin came into view, I stopped short. The windows glowed faintly warm. We'd left no lights on. Inside, through the fogged glass, shapes moved, slow, gliding motions like people swaying to music. Ryan's breath hitched. "Who's in there?" The front door creaked open by itself. The faint strains of that same music spilled out, soft and distant, a waltz for ghosts. We should have turned and run. But something about the melody drew us forward. Inside, the cabin looked cleaner. The dust was gone. The fire was blazing bright. The table was set for 5, candles flickering in crystal holders. Our names were still written on the cups, but now they were filled with something golden and bubbling. Bree stepped back. "No." The music swelled slightly, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. The clock ticked steadily, perfect now, each swing of the pendulum in rhythm with the tune. I whispered, "It's like time reset." Tyler moved toward the mirror at the end of the hall, the one we'd covered. The towel was gone. In the reflection, the room behind us shimmered, not quite matching. The fire burned brighter there, the shadows moved differently. And in the reflection, 5 people stood around the table, glasses raised. Us, but not us. Their faces were older, their smiles wrong, too wide, eyes too empty. Tyler stumbled back. "We have to go." The front door slammed shut behind us. The clock struck once, then again. The first chime echoed through my bones. The second felt like a heartbeat, not my own. Ryan grabbed my arm. "Basement," he said. "There has to be a back way out." "There's no..." Before I could finish, we heard it again, the dragging sound beneath the floorboards. Slow, steady, like someone pacing directly under our feet. Then a voice rose through the wood, soft and melodic. "The guests are late." The fire flared, and the confetti that had been scattered on the floor lifted into the air, whirling like dust in a storm. It filled the room, red and glimmering, until I couldn't see the walls. Through the haze, I saw figures beginning to form. Silhouettes dressed in old-fashioned clothes, faces blurred by movement. Their hands clutched empty glasses. Their mouths moved silently, mouthing a single phrase in time with the clock's rhythm. "Happy New Year." Ryan grabbed the poker from beside the fireplace and swung at the air. The shapes scattered like smoke, the confetti falling lifelessly again. When the room cleared, we found the trapdoor. It had been hidden under the rug all along. He yanked it open, and a gust of cold air rushed up, smelling of damp stone and something metallic. We climbed down one by one, the flashlight trembling in Tyler's hand. The basement was small, lined with shelves covered in broken bottles and dusty decorations. Against one wall stood a row of boxes identical to the one we'd opened the first night. Each had a name written in red marker. Some were faded beyond reading. Some were still crisp. The last 5 boxes had our names. I opened mine. Inside was a crumpled party hat, a cracked plastic cup, and a small photograph, me sitting by the fire, smiling, except it wasn't a photo that had ever been taken. I dropped it, backing away until I hit the wall. The clock upstairs struck again. 12 slow chimes. With each one, the air in the basement grew warmer. The confetti on the floor began to glow faintly. Bree whispered, "We're already part of it, aren't we?" Ryan clenched his jaw. "Not yet." He climbed the ladder, shoving the hatch open. But the cabin above was different now. The decorations were new. The banner gleamed bright red again. And faint voices filled the air, laughing, chatting, the sound of a party in full swing. We could see shadows moving past the windows. Car headlights flashing. But when Ryan opened the door, there was nothing outside. Just snow. The laughter kept playing, looping. Sam was the one who finally noticed the date on the old newspaper pinned near the door. January 1st, 1983. The headline read, "5 found dead in cabin fire. New Year's celebration ends in tragedy." Beneath it, a blurry photo of faces I half recognized. Bree gasped. "That's them. The people from the picture." Ryan traced the caption with his finger. Their names. The last one on the list stopped him cold. It was his. I looked again, and the letters shifted, rearranging themselves until they spelled mine. The music faltered. The fire dimmed. Outside, snow started falling again. Ryan took my hand. "We leave now. We walk until we find the road." We don't look back. We stepped outside. The air was colder than before, sharp enough to sting. The trees were still. For a few moments I thought we'd made it. Then the cabin lights flared behind us, bright as day. A single clear voice floated through the air. "See you next year." We didn't speak during the walk. The road eventually appeared, empty except for a rusted sign half buried in snow. The letters were almost gone, but I could make out enough to know we were miles from where we thought we'd been. A truck picked us up sometime after dawn. The driver said he'd never heard of Briarwood Cabins. "That place burned down decades ago," he said. None of us corrected him. Weeks later, back home, I found a small envelope taped to my apartment door. No return address. Inside was a single piece of red confetti and a note written in familiar handwriting. The wind coming off the lake that night carried the smell of wood smoke and something faintly metallic, like old coins rubbed together. I remember thinking it was colder than it should have been. Even in Vermont, even in late December, the air felt wrong. I was the new manager of the Briarwood Lodge, a small event space that had been empty for years until the owners decided to host a relaunch party for New Year's Eve. My job was simple: keep the heat on, make sure the caterer showed up, and stay out of the way of the investors who were trying to turn the place into a year-round retreat. The brochures had made the lodge look elegant: oak beams, lake view, champagne by the fire. In reality, it was a big echoing building full of creaks and corners that caught every sound. By 7 p.m., I'd checked the last light bulb, straightened the banner that read "Briarwood welcomes a new year," and set out the trays of hors d'oeuvres. The guests weren't due until 9. For 2 hours, it was just me, the empty hall, and a clock whose second hand ticked slightly offbeat, like it was remembering an older rhythm. Around 8:30, the first car pulled up. Tires crunched on the snow-packed drive. I wiped my hands on a towel and went to the front doors. A man in a dark coat stepped out, tall, late 30s maybe. He carried himself like he'd been here before. "Evening," I said. He nodded. "You're the new caretaker." "Manager," I corrected without meaning to. He smiled a little at that. "Right, manager. Glad to see the place breathing again." Before I could ask his name, another car arrived, headlights sweeping over the frozen lake. Then another. By 9, there were a dozen people milling about the lobby, shaking off coats, murmuring about renovations and the good old days. I didn't recognize any of them. Still, they spoke like they'd been coming here for years. One woman touched the railing of the grand staircase and whispered, "They polished it. It still squeaks, though, doesn't it?" When I listened, I realized she was right. The third step creaked, long and low, as though something deep inside the wood had sighed. By 10, the lodge was glowing. The band, 3 local musicians I'd hired last minute, was warming up in the corner. Laughter and piano notes filled the air. For the first time all day, Briarwood sounded alive. I carried a tray of drinks past the fireplace and paused. A mirror hung above the mantel, old glass with faint silver veins. The crowd reflected there looked fuller somehow. For every person standing in front of me, another shimmered faintly behind them, like echoes caught in the glass. Someone clinked a glass. "To Briarwood," a voice said, rich and certain. The room cheered. I turned back toward the mirror. The extra faces were gone. The evening went on like any party. People danced, laughed, argued about champagne brands. But small things kept pulling at me. At 10:37, the lights flickered once, just enough to make everyone glance upward. When they steadied again, the clock above the bar read 10:38. I could have sworn it had jumped forward an entire minute. At 10:59, I went to check the back hall where we kept extra glasses. The door was ajar. Inside, the air was colder than the rest of the building. A faint draft hummed against the window panes. Something glinted on the floor. A single piece of shiny paper, circular red. Confetti. I brushed it into my palm and frowned. We hadn't opened the decorations yet. When I returned to the main room, the guests were standing around the clock, counting under their breath. 58, 59. The second hand hadn't moved. "Looks like it stopped," someone said. I checked my watch. 11:11 p.m. The clock on the wall was frozen there too, both hands pointing straight up. The band laughed it off, playing louder. People went back to their drinks. Only one man, the first guest, the one in the dark coat, watched the clock. His reflection shimmered in the mirror, a little slower than his real movement. I started to say something, but a gust of wind rattled the windows. sharp enough to make the glasses ring. Near midnight, the temperature dropped. The fire burned low even though I'd just added wood. The laughter sounded distant, like it was coming from another room. I walked toward the doors leading to the terrace to check if the storm had picked up. Outside, the lake lay flat and black. The surface was frozen solid, smooth as glass. Across it, faint points of light flickered, tiny lanterns maybe, or reflections. But they were spaced too evenly, stretching into the woods beyond the shore. Behind me, someone spoke softly. "It's almost time," I turned. It was the woman who'd mentioned the squeaky stair. She wore a silver shawl now, thin for the weather. "Almost time for what?" I asked. "The drop," she said simply, smiling as if I should know. The band began playing Auld Lang Syne. People gathered near the big window that faced the lake. Someone had set up an old-fashioned countdown ball, just a mirrored sphere hanging from a cord above the fireplace. It wasn't plugged into anything, but at 11:59 p.m. it began to turn slowly, scattering little specks of light across the room. The guests raised their glasses. I stood by the door uneasy. The clock ticked once after being silent for almost an hour. 10:08. Their voices overlapped, cheerful and oddly hollow. 7, 6, 5. The mirror above the mantel caught the turning ball. For an instant, the reflection didn't match. The mirrored ball in the glass was dropping faster, as if gravity had doubled. 4, 3. The man in the dark coat smiled at me across the room. "Watch closely," he mouthed. 2, 1. The lights went out. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the sound of the wind surged through the chimney. A long breath that seemed to draw the air from the room. The ball stopped turning. When the lights flickered back, the clock read 12 a.m. But the second hand wasn't ticking. It was shaking, trapped between numbers, quivering. The guests clapped, laughed, kissed each other on the cheek. But something about the sound didn't fit. It echoed wrong, like a recording slightly out of sync. I felt a pressure behind my ears, faint and steady, like distant music leaking through walls. I went back to the storeroom to find the circuit box. The door that had been ajar earlier was wide open now. Inside, the confetti I'd seen before was everywhere. Tiny red circles drifting slowly as though stirred by unseen hands. They caught the light of my flashlight and shimmered, suspended in midair. In the center of the floor lay the old event guest book, pages curled and brown. The last entry was dated December 31st, 1982. Next to it, in the same neat handwriting, someone had added a single line only hours ago. "Welcome back to Briarwood. Let the countdown begin again." I backed out of the room, heart thudding. From the hall came the sound of the band starting another song, soft, rhythmic, too calm. When I returned to the main hall, the crowd was still dancing, but slower now. The ball had stopped halfway down its cord, turning lazily. Every reflection in the mirror behind them moved just a beat out of time. The man in the dark coat raised his glass toward me. "Midnight's a circle," he said. "It always comes back around." I wanted to ask who he was, but the words wouldn't come. The room felt thick, the air charged like before a storm. Outside, the lake lights were still visible, faint red-gold specks forming a perfect ring on the ice. The wind eased. Somewhere above us, the clock began to tick again, faint but steady, and in the reflection of the big window, where the guests' silhouettes swayed against the frozen water, I thought I saw another figure watching from the shore, tall, still, waiting for the next countdown to start. When I woke, sunlight poured through the tall windows, yellow and ordinary. For a second, I believed the night before had been a dream. Then I saw the mirror. It hung in the same place above the fireplace, but the glass was fractured now, a perfect hairline crack running down the center like a frozen tear. The tables were still covered in plates and empty glasses. The band's instruments sat in their cases. The room looked like any party the morning after, except the clock. It still read 12 and the second hand quivered gently, caught between ticks. I checked my phone. 8:14 a.m. The guests were gone. Every coat rack stood empty, every car space outside filled only with snow, but the fire still burned low and steady. Someone had added wood during the night. I found the guest book on the counter. The page that had ended with "Welcome back to Briarwood" was blank now. The ink gone, the paper clean. In the kitchen, the air smelled faintly of champagne and cedar. The radio, which hadn't worked last night, whispered static. Then between bursts of fuzz, a voice, soft, slow, half-sung, 5 days till the ball drops again. I turned the dial, but it didn't change. By noon, I convinced myself exhaustion was making me jumpy. There were real explanations for everything. The power flicker, the confetti, even the voice. Old wiring, air vents, bad sleep. So I went about cleaning. I cleared the tables, stacked chairs, swept the red paper circles from the floor. Some of them stuck to my broom as if magnetized. When I pried one off, I noticed faint print on the underside. Briarwood, 1982. I dropped it into the trash, but it clung to my sleeve. The afternoon light dimmed fast. The lake outside had refrozen, perfectly smooth. I saw my reflection in it, small, distorted, surrounded by faint sparkles that looked like the same scattered lights from last night. Then, in the reflection behind me, someone moved past the window. I spun around. The porch was empty. The air pressed colder against the glass like breath. I backed away, heart kicking. "Just a trick of light," I said out loud, the way people do when silence feels too thick. Around 5, the phone rang. The lodge had an old rotary line. No caller ID. The ring was mechanical and sharp, echoing through every hallway. When I answered, I expected static. Instead, a voice I didn't recognize, calm, friendly. "Is this Briarwood Lodge?" "Yes," I said cautiously. "We're temporarily closed." "No matter," the caller said. "Just wanted to confirm the reservation." December 31st, party of 5. "I think you have the wrong—" "Oh, we've been coming for years," the voice interrupted. "Same time every year." "You're new, aren't you?" My throat went dry. "Who is this?" "We like tradition," the voice said, almost tender. "We'll see you soon." Click, I unplugged the phone. Still, at exactly 6 p.m., it rang again. The cord wasn't even connected. That was when I decided to drive into town. I grabbed my keys, coat, and flashlight. The snow was ankle-deep, but the main road couldn't be more than 3 miles downhill. Yet when I reached the edge of the property, the road wasn't there. In its place stretched the frozen lake, flat, unbroken, stretching farther than it ever had before. The woods on the other side looked closer somehow, pressed forward like a backdrop painted too near. My footprints behind me had already faded, swallowed by the wind. Back inside, I made a fire just for the noise. The light outside turned gray, then black. The clock still hadn't moved. I sat near the flames, half dozing until a faint rhythm woke me. Tick, tick, tick. The sound came from the wall. I followed it to the hallway near the storeroom, the same door that had been open last night. Inside, my flashlight beam caught the mirror from above the mantel. It wasn't cracked anymore. Someone had moved it there. For a moment, I saw nothing but my own reflection. Then another figure formed behind me in the glass, blurry, tall, shoulders slightly hunched. I turned instantly. Empty room. When I looked back, the reflection lingered for one heartbeat longer before fading. At midnight, the power flickered again. The same faint hum began in the walls. I checked the clock, still frozen, but then I noticed something new. The small brass plaque beneath it now read, "Next drop, 4 days." I didn't remember ever seeing that before. Sleep came in fits. Every time I drifted off, I heard faint counting. Not from a dream, but from the hallway speakers that weren't supposed to work. 10, 9, 8. Each time it reached 1, silence followed. Then a whisper, "Reset, morning again." Everything looked the same. Except now there were footprints, wet, melting slowly across the lobby floor. They started at the front doors and stopped right in front of the fireplace. I followed them outside. The snow was smooth, untouched, except for one set of impressions leading away across the frozen lake. At the farthest visible point, a shape stood, a tall post maybe, or a figure. It was hard to tell in the glare. I called the property owner, a woman named Karen who lived 2 towns over. She answered on the second ring, cheerful. "Briarwood? Oh, good. How's the event planning?" "Fine," I lied. "Do you remember hosting parties here before? Like years ago?" "Oh, that place has hosted 100, she said. New Year's corporate retreats. My parents ran them before I was born." "Why?" I hesitated. "Does the name ring any bells?" "The ball drop at Briarwood." A pause. "You shouldn't call it that," she said softly. "That's what the papers called the accident." My pulse stuttered. "What accident?" "New Year's Eve, 1982. Gas leak, I think. Whole building went up after midnight. Everyone said the countdown went wrong. Her voice dimmed like she'd stepped away from the receiver. But you said you were in the lodge right now? Yes, that's impossible, she whispered. It burned down 40 years ago. Click, the line went dead. I stared at the receiver until my own breath fogged the plastic. Then, faintly, the static returned. Underneath it, a voice I almost recognized. 4 days till the ball drops again. That night, I couldn't stay still. Every creak of the wood made me jump. I kept thinking about the crack in the mirror that had healed itself, about the plaque changing, about the guests who might not have been real. At 2 a.m., I found myself standing in front of the frozen lake again. The ring of lights I'd seen before had shifted closer to shore. And when I leaned closer to the glassy surface, I realized the reflections weren't lights at all. They were lanterns hanging beneath the ice, each one suspended above what looked like... No. I stepped back before finishing the thought. In the silence, a faint echo rolled across the ice. Someone clapping slowly in rhythm. Back inside, I checked the mirror one last time before dawn. In its surface, I didn't see my reflection anymore. Only the grand room full of guests, waiting patiently as the mirrored ball hung suspended above them. They looked like they'd been waiting a long, long time. I didn't go back to Vermont for almost a year, but I never stopped thinking about it. Every time the calendar crept toward December, I felt it. The tightening in my chest, the faint smell of smoke that came from nowhere. I told myself it was memory, nothing more. That the mind finds patterns in fear and repeats them until they feel like prophecy. Still, I caught myself watching the clock on New Year's Eve, waiting for the chime that shouldn't come. The others drifted away after that winter. Bree moved states. Tyler stopped answering texts. Sam changed his number completely. Ryan stayed for a while until late summer, when he started talking in half sentences and waking at 11:59 every night, listening for something. Then he left, too. By the time December came around again, I was alone. On December 28th, an envelope slid under my door. It was the same cream-colored paper, folded neatly with my name in cursive I didn't recognize. Inside was a single red flake, confetti, and below it printed words cut from what looked like an old magazine. You're invited back to Briarwood. New year, new beginnings. I almost laughed. It felt too obvious, too theatrical, like someone playing a cruel joke. But the back of the card had an address handwritten in black ink. Not the same place. A different cabin farther north. I told myself it couldn't be real, that the past didn't have a return address. Still, I packed my car 2 days later. The drive was long, the air brittle with cold. Snow started to fall just before sunset, thick enough that the headlights turned the road into a white tunnel. When I finally saw the mailbox, a dented metal thing half buried in ice, it was marked with a single word. Briarwood. The cabin beyond the trees looked newer, but I recognized the shape of it. The slope of the roof, the narrow porch. It was like someone had rebuilt the old place from memory. The front door was unlocked. Inside, everything was ready. The table set for 5. Streamers looped across the ceiling. And on the mantelpiece, 5 cups with names written in black marker. Mine was in the middle. I should have left. But curiosity is a slow poison. I told myself I was just looking for proof, something to make it all stop living in my head. So I sat down, lit the fire, and waited for midnight. The air felt heavier the closer the clock crept toward 12. The ticking sounded too clear, too deliberate. Every shadow stretched longer. At 11:50, the first sound came, a faint hum from behind the walls like wires vibrating. Then the faint rustle of paper falling. I looked up. Red confetti drifted down from the rafters. It landed in the fire and didn't burn. At 11:55, the phone on the table rang. A black rotary phone that hadn't been there before. I stared at it until the ring became unbearable. When I finally picked up, I didn't speak. I just listened. For a few seconds, there was only static. Then a voice I knew too well. Ryan. I shouldn't have left you. His tone was calm, quiet, like he was calling from another room. You kept the invitation, didn't you? We all did. It's easier if you stop fighting it. I tried to speak, but my throat felt locked. They're waiting, he said. You just have to stay until midnight. The line clicked dead. I dropped the phone, heart hammering, and went for the door. But the handle turned loosely, useless. Outside the window, snow fell in perfect stillness. Not one flake moved sideways, as if the wind had been turned off. The clock read 11:58. The fire flickered, and for a heartbeat I saw shapes moving in it. 5 figures holding glasses high, frozen mid-toast. The reflection shimmered in the glass, and behind them stood a 6th figure smiling directly at me. It looked like me. When the first chime struck, the air changed. Warmth poured through the room like breath, carrying the faint sound of laughter. The walls brightened. The decorations straightened. The cabin looked alive again. The figures in the fire turned their heads, and then the lights went out. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was crowded. I could feel movement in it. The soft brush of fabric, the creak of footsteps on the boards. Somewhere close, a woman's voice whispered, almost kindly, "Welcome back." I turned toward the sound. In the dim red glow from the coals, the room was filled with silhouettes, faces half seen, smiling faintly, eyes glimmering like glass. They held glasses, they wore paper hats. One of them stepped closer. Her dress shimmered silver, dusted with faint red flakes. The same woman from the old photograph. The one who'd never been crossed out. She tilted her head. "You made it this time." I tried to speak, to ask who she was, but my voice came out like a breath. She lifted her hand, and in her palm was a folded card. "You never RSVP'd," she said softly. "We thought you'd forgotten." The clock struck 12. The confetti lifted again, swirling in slow spirals. The air smelled of champagne and cold iron. I felt lightheaded, like the world had tilted sideways. The woman smiled wider. "It's tradition, you know. Every year, new guests. Every year, new beginnings." Her hand brushed my cheek. "But you came back. That's rare." The music began again, faint and distant, the same waltz, the same rhythm that had haunted me for months. "Dance with us," she whispered. "It's only polite." I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, the cabin was quiet. Morning light streamed through the windows. The fire was dead. No decorations, no confetti, no cups. Just the faint smell of smoke and something sweet. For a moment I thought I'd dreamed it all again. Another trick of memory. But then I saw it. On the mantel, 5 photos in matching frames. The first 4 were old. The last one was new. Me sitting at the table, smiling. Outside, the snow had stopped. My car sat where I'd left it, half buried. The road looked clearer than before. I got in, started the engine. It turned over easily this time. The radio came on by itself, static fading into a faint, cheerful voice. "Happy New Year from everyone at Briarwood. We'll see you next time." I switched it off, but as I drove, the rearview mirror caught a glimmer. Tiny red flakes drifting from my hair, catching the sunlight before vanishing into the air. That night, back home, I checked my apartment door again. No envelopes. No notes. For the first time in a long time, I thought maybe it was over. Then, at exactly 11:59 p.m., my phone buzzed once on the nightstand. No number, no caller ID. I picked it up. The line was silent for a long moment. Then the woman's voice came through.